This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community.
Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and it's my goal here on the podcast to introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. Our title sponsor for this episode is Bringing Local Back. Remember when your community could turn to a local TV station or newspaper for the latest updates and affordable ads? Those days may be fading, but the need for local connection remains. That's why we created Bringing Local Back, a game-changing platform that restores local visibility and advertising power to your community. It's more than just tech. It's about driving engagement and creating new revenue for your chamber. Ready to see the future? Visit bringinglocalback.com to schedule your demo today. This is the future of local commerce. Our guest for this episode is Houssem Touil. Houssem, for the past 10 years, has worked with chambers of commerce, business associations, and employer organizations across the Mediterranean, Africa, and Eastern Europe, where he's delivered projects which have impacted the private sector and civil society on both the local and regional scale. During that time, he wore many hats such as employee, consultant, member, board member, and chamber president, which gives him a new perspective on the private sector challenges and opportunities. By the age of 27, he co-founded the Tunisia-Estonian Chamber of Commerce, a bilateral chamber between Estonia and Tunisia, his home country, where he serves as the president since 2019. He is now the founder of Chamberpad, a newsletter for chambers of commerce. Houssem, I'm excited to have you back with us on Chamber Chat Podcast. Houssem was a guest back on episode 120 for anyone who's curious and wants to go back and check out that episode as well. But please take a moment to say hello to all the Chamber Champions who are out there listening and share something interesting about yourself so we can all get to know you a little better.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks, Brandon. So it's been 3 years and a half now, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years and a half, like time flies. And so thanks for having me and thanks everyone for tuning in. So my name is Houssem. I'm the founder of Chamberpad and also the president of the Tunisian Estonian Chamber of Commerce, just like you mentioned it. So I had the privilege of working with chambers of commerce of several sizes and budgets and had many hats, as you mentioned earlier, which has given me unique insight into how businesses and chambers can effectively collaborate. So this experience, coupled with conversations with industry peers, has really fueled my passion for launching Chamberpad. And also I have a background in media communication. So so we hope that Chamberpad aims to be at the forefront of those discussions.
That's kind of a natural fit with the media and communications background to do something in that field, right? And blend it in with the chamber world.
Yes.
And I definitely see it being relevant in today's world where the world just keeps getting smaller and smaller with technology and communication skills. And, for you and I to be able to be on the opposite sides of the planet right now and be able to talk over Zoom as if we're in the same room. And the world is very small. And a lot of the trends that we see happening globally are happening in our own backyard. So being able to know what's going on and maybe getting that glimpse, a step or two before it happens in our own community is crucial to staying relevant as a chamber. So I'm excited to have you on for that perspective. But maybe before we go down that road of talking about Chamberpad and what it is, it is kind of a unique situation with the Tunisia-Estonia Chamber. So take a moment just to explain what that is for listeners and how does that work with the bilateral chamber and just give us that perspective.
Yeah, sure. So it's a not-for-profit, and so why Estonia first? So Estonia, I mean, it's like it's a small country, and they have like 99% of their public services are digital. So basically, you do pretty much everything online with the government. And also it's very tech savvy. They have like, it's startup country where they have like the most numbers of startups per capita. And at the same time, in my country, we are small, but not that small uh, in size. But I've seen that there's also a lot of similarities, and we can learn a lot from them. Uh, Start by implementing or at least learning from how they build like a digital savvy country. So basically in Tunisia, we have also like a lot of IT companies. So most of the time this is IT focused more than everything else. So basically we're like a technology chamber or at least technology focused chamber
Yeah.
um, where we help our local startups to expand via startup visa, for example, in Estonia. They can also this enable them to get access to European markets to alleviate a lot of barriers and reduce the cost of doing business sometimes. It also opens them to other markets, not just the European market. Also in Tunisia, every year we have over 65,000 graduates. About 10,000 to 11,000 of them are engineers, or at least they work in the STEM. So so basically they are trilingual, and most of the time they don't just like find a job right away. Uh, Given the perspective like of the local economy and so on. So it's not that easy to find a job like right away when you graduate. So basically most of them they end up like working as freelancer or they leave the country to other places. And so here comes Estonia with a model called the e-residency. So basically become like a virtual resident of the country, but it doesn't give you like additional rights, like additional civic rights. It just give you most of the time like let's say commercial rights with to
Okay.
interact with the government, and you can stay wherever you are in the world. So you don't relocate, you stay where you are, you can have access to the same opportunity, just like, or at least almost like you would relocate over there. So yeah, so this is another pain point that we have addressed, especially that we have like a massive brain drain. So we're trying to keeping the talents local.
Well, and it's another example of the world getting smaller, and
Yeah,
you guys definitely can't do things the way things have always been done as chambers because it's very technology focused and needing to
yes,
stay on the forefront of all that.
yes.
Out of curiosity, how do you measure membership and growth and that with the chamber with this type of structure?
Yeah, so this is also another way we looked at how we could operate as a chamber. So usually a chamber would just, like you set up the chamber. Let's say if you're like a private law chamber, you set it up as a nonprofit. You bring in some like industry peers, and you say, okay, we're gonna set up the chamber, and you start like drafting a roadmap and start acquiring members to get to what you have planned, like do events, trade delegations, and policy briefs and so on. But we have acted differently. We said, okay, instead of focusing on having members, how many have renewed, how many are engaged or not, or dropped out. So we said, okay, we are going to act as a cluster. And so basically, we said we are going to be like not just like a local cluster, but on both sides. So we went to the clusters over there in Estonia, and we said, okay, so here are the possibilities where we can collaborate in the short term, mid-term, and actually long term. And here are probably like some discussions that you could also take part of, like knowledge exchange, for example, and trade delegations or bid for tenders. Like Tunisia is spending like a lot in working with multilateral stakeholders like World Bank and African Development Bank and so on to digitize the public services. So, and they have experience in that. So I said, okay, maybe let's just like match sometimes we do on a case by case basis. So
Okay.
instead of bringing in like 500 companies from both sides together or even 100, let's just do it like on case by case basis. So we started operating first for startups and we had like few startups getting there. They had like their startup visa. We also had a couple of startups from Estonia coming here. They set up shop. We have like a unique framework here for startups called the Startup Act, and they operating thanks to its framework incentives. Then we had some IT companies bidding together as joint ventures. They are working not just Tunisia but also in Africa, actually, in the Middle East. So yeah, we are seeing like a lot of it's actually new perspective. So we find it it's a new I'm not gonna say like it's a new model or something, but we just like explored something that you wouldn't just like think of when you draft your roadmap. So usually we think of events, trade delegation, and so on. But I said, okay, well, let's just go with whatever opportunity we can seize. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, I like that. So, Houssem is obviously an outside the box thinker, which is why we wanted to have him on the show today. We're going to focus most of our conversation around Chamberpad. This is a new newsletter that Houssem has founded and put out into the world. So, we're going to learn about what it is, what the purpose is, and everything about it as soon as we get back from this quick break.
Are you looking for a year-round, affordable, and timely shop local campaign for your chamber or CVB? Look no further. Build a custom Eat, Shop, Play mobile app with App My Community by visiting appmycommunity.com/chamberchat. App My Community mobile apps are not just simple membership directory listings. They provide many more capabilities to engage with your community. Provide your residents with a robust events calendar. Partner with a local fair, festival, or farmers market to provide a schedule, map, and other resources to promote the event. Run a small business Saturday campaign any time of the year using built-in scavenger hunts. Allow your membership to communicate directly to their customers via push notifications. Your App My Community mobile app will be a unique member benefit, allow you to generate non-dues revenue with sponsorship opportunities, and best of all, provide a valuable resource to your community. Please visit appmycommunity.com/chamberchat now to receive 10% off your first year of an App My Community mobile app. Are you looking for a way to grow and manage your Chamber of Commerce more effectively? Look no further than Chamber Nation. Their innovative software provides everything you need to streamline operations, engage members, and increase revenue. With features like event management, membership directories, advanced membership tools, mobile apps, community kiosks, and financial reporting, Chamber Nation makes it easy to run your chamber like a well-oiled machine. Don't miss out on this opportunity to take your chamber to the next level. Visit richardscalendar.com to learn more about Chamber Nation today.
All right, Houssem, we're back. As I mentioned before the break, we see the world getting smaller and smaller. There's great value in getting perspective from people in other parts, other regions of the world, just to see what's going on there and see what we can apply in our own community. Tell us, what is Chamberpad? We talked about it being a newsletter, but I know it's new. I think you're four newsletters into it, and I will say, from a content producer myself, sometimes our best stuff comes out early before we have a big following. So I'm going to urge everybody to start following Chamberpad right now so you can get all the good stuff. But it'll continue to be great, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
tell us what it is and what all it entails and where the idea come from.
Yeah, I like that. But like when you start at the beginning, you put yourself into it.
Yeah, you put
Like
your
you
best
like
foot forward. You got great content, and you've got a small audience, right? So we've
yeah,
got to grow it and get in front of more people.
yeah, you can relate. That's
Yes.
great. Yeah. And so Chamberpad is a newsletter designed specifically for the Chambers of Commerce ecosystem. So the staff, the executives, the board members, the volunteers, the members also, and also the service providers, the policy makers, and so on. So anyone who is like on the could be around like the Chamber of Commerce ecosystem. So like I've seen like a pattern. I saw like a gap in the market where chambers needed like easily digestible, centralized source of information. And so this comes as frustration as a chamber president myself. So I mean, I know that like the perspective sometimes could be different because it's just like between two countries. So basically, you can have like top two, three news outlets between two countries where you could just, you know, see the news and everything related to the government or private sector or whatever. But this also, as I have another hat, which is working with chambers in from all sizes, different countries, different cultures. So basically, you're like, sometimes you you find yourself in information overload. So you're overloaded, you don't know where to get your information exactly. You can
Yeah.
see, can go through, like your Twitter or X thread. You can go through your Facebook timeline, you can go through the LinkedIn newsfeed, and basically you wouldn't be able to digest like all of it. So basically, I said, okay, let's have like one source of information, and I started digging more into it to see like how relevant it is. So started like let's say tracking how many news there are related to all of this, like related to the chambers, to the employee organizations, to business associations, and so on. And I see like there is on average about 14,000 news per month only related to chambers.
Wow.
And and this is actually just in English. So it's not like also like try to imagine how many this could be uh, in other languages, like in French or in Chinese or in Arabic and in Spanish or Portuguese. So I guess it's going to be more, but just in English, it's just like 14,000. And so say, okay, maybe we can do something and be, so the first idea would be to become aggregator. But also that wouldn't solve the problem since there are actually 14,000 news. So I wouldn't read 14,000 news per month
Right.
because the context is extremely different. So I said, okay, so maybe do like a digest, like every week you spend the whole week like hustling, doing whatever you do with acquiring members, visiting your member, advocating on their behalf, talking to the media, doing events or whatever. Said by the end of the week, or at least so basically we release every Thursday. They said by the end of the week you'll get the top news and the top events and the top publications, and now also the best latest podcast episode of Chamber Chat podcast that you
Yeah.
can listen to. So it's not just about reading it, but also listening. And yeah, I mean, I find that format better than actually doing an aggregator, some something like Hacker News. I don't know if you know it, Hacker News.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so it's like, in Silicon Valley, there's like Hacker News. It's a platform where like hundreds and hundreds of news drop every day almost about
Okay.
technology and so on. So I said, I mean, you gotta spend like your day in front of Hacker News to read the news. So basically, you wouldn't have any
Yeah.
work done. So I said, okay, let's just do the newsletter and take it from there. So we set up like a roadmap, and I said, okay, like our mission is to provide actionable insights, trends, events, best practices to chambers across the globe. So whether they are a local chamber in a small town or a large international network, or they could be a continental chamber or state chamber or whatever. So yeah, for now it's just newsletter, but and we also have like subscribers from North America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and also even from the Caribbean. So yeah, I mean, very much this is like exciting times and very much looking forward to where this is going to take us.
Yeah. No, I love the idea for it, and like you said, to be able to try to curate these different articles and news outlets from, worldwide, from the global scene. I mean, it would
Yeah.
be quite the undertaking to really dive in and do that all. But as you come across these things of interest, to kind of keep note of it and put it together in a what I like is it's an easily digestible newsletter. So you're not seeing just article after article, but you have it broken down right at the top where it says, like, for example, this week there were 6 news articles that you referenced, 3 publications, 1 podcast episode, and 4 events, around the world.
Yeah.
And then you have it broken down by those categories and like bullet points and links to the full articles or registration for events and things like that. And I don't know, just kind of future casting this, I see you could become that source where people are coming to you with articles and information. Here's something for the newsletter. Our chamber's doing this, or our, National Association of a chamber in certain countries doing this, or whatever it may be. Just to put it out there in the newsletter. I think it's a great platform, and glad to see somebody's picking up the ball and running with it and doing this. So
Yeah, thanks.
kudos to you with the idea. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we already started having some people reaching out actually. So they reach out even by the email that they find at the bottom of the newsletter, or by LinkedIn. They reach out, I'll say, oh, you should actually put this, or why not look at this? So yeah, basically, so feel free to send. I mean, yeah, we're happy to include it.
Yeah. And I think for a busy chamber executive or chamber staff to be able to get this email every Thursday, open it up, and you can scan right through it, see what things are of interest to you and what's relevant to you. Click on that. And I know, lots of people get different emails from various organizations, maybe like Harvard Business Review. I know they do like a weekly email. And people really look forward to those because it has so much valuable content in it. And that's how I see Chamberpad being, is that resource specific for chamber executives, chamber staff to be able to see what's going on in a lot of different markets all at once. And you can go back and reference it. It's got all the links there. So you're not needing to search worldwide to find these things, but it's being curated and presented to you. So nice job.
Yes.
What else would you want to share about Chamberpad for listeners, just to get them into it, to get them to understand what it is and where it offers value for them? Is there anything else that you'd add?
Yeah, sure. So for now, we started as a newsletter. We read by chamber leaders from 29 countries so far, and what we plan on doing is actually to become a one-stop shop for all informations related to chambers. So this is just like the digest. You get the digest of the news, but eventually we're planning on starting doing our own webinars. For example, in the beginning, we have also started to initiate discussions with chamber industry events where we are or could become media partners for the events as well. We're also working on, we're about to roll out our platform. So it's the same address, like chamberpad.com is the same. For now, you can just go there and subscribe for the newsletter. We will keep the newsletter, of course, because we all need to keep the weekly digest over there. But also, we are going to start doing interviews and promoting, most of the time we have to promote economy. So we just hear about the top economies most of the time, who is doing what, but we often forget about all the others and all the great job that they're doing. Some subjects, for example, like the free trade agreements, like if your chamber, for example, you have members who export, let's say, like fruits and vegetables, you would want to know about another, your chamber peer in another country, which judges say, hey, both our countries are actually have a free trade agreements, and fruits and vegetables are actually included in that. So we have either eliminated tariffs or we have actually reduced the tariff rates. So basically, you as a chamber, you would actually say, okay, why don't you just like go to this country, listen to this webinar, read to everything they have to tell you about how you could export to their countries, and thus you make more money, you hire more people, and also you stick with the chamber. So basically, it's sometimes I see that maybe can talk about it later, like what's like the future for chambers and so on. But sometimes you can just like do it all uh, as a chamber executive yourself. Like, you can't just do everything on
Right.
your own. So sometimes someone has to do something for you, you know.
Resist
It's
the
just
temptation, right?
yeah. Yeah. Resist the
Yeah.
temptation. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it started, like, I've been listening to your podcast for 3 years and a half now, and every time, I get like new perspectives from new people. Sometimes, sometimes it could be related to the place where they are operating from, or sometimes it could be like subject. So yeah, like uh we can do like webinars on specific subjects, but basically they're going to be around countries, and we're very thrilled to be like partners with the Chamber Chat podcast. I mean, it's like really my favorite podcast. Like every week I listen to it. So basically, we have that you listen to Brandon every week, but also you read what Houssem writes to you every week as well.
Yeah. Goes hand in hand. I love it.
Yeah, yeah,
I love it.
absolutely.
So you had mentioned earlier you have a marketing and communications background. So
Yes,
how is that? Have you been able to lean into that as you've launched Chamberpad?
yes, very good question. So you need, so when you look at, for example, so I said earlier, we've been like tracking the number of news that we find like every week. We also uh, let's say like seized the opportunity and checked let's say the trends related to chambers, what they are talking about, and so on. I've seen that most of the time they're still operating in the same way. And what do I mean by that? I mean from a media perspective. Like for now, when you go through all kinds of reports, you can go to reports just related to like certain size of chambers or in certain continent for chambers, you will see that many say that they have a reduced engagement rate, while others say that they they have like more members dropping than actually renewing. Others say that they're actually seeing like spike in membership. And we said, okay, so maybe I should like, initiate some discussions with some people and try to see uh why, like what's going on. And sometimes what you get is just you find that these people they communicate with different generations at the same time. So they communicate with my generation, the millennials, they communicate also with the Gen Z, they communicate also with the boomers. And so I think that chambers right now should become a media machine. I mean, at certain time they become a network. Actually, they started as a network. And, like Chamber started about like over 400 years ago in the port of southern France, Marseille. They're just, they started, like going to the port over there, and they had like issues with the pirates in the Mediterranean. And then they seized the occasion and they found out that traders, merchants are meeting with each other. So basically, they also seized the occasion to start doing business together. And then later on, so it started as a network. And then from the network, it moved to an advocacy powerhouse. And, you become a member, your chamber is going to defend you. They're going to, voice your concern to the local, state, federal, national, whatever authorities you're concerned. And and now I think that they should become actually media machine. And this is not an option because the world has changed a lot. And even with COVID, like COVID is actually, despite like all the negative downsides of COVID and so on. But I think that it has also like accelerated the future and it has actually brought it to our doorstep. So I think, yes, chambers should become media machines.
I love that. And I'm going to take that as an endorsement. Recently launching
Yeah,
the Bringing Local Back. platform, that was part of the vision, is Chambers being a media machine and establishing a platform that makes it easy to put your content out in your community, to really showcase your members, to really be that go-to source for information in your community. So I love that testimonial of it because that's the idea about that bringing local back campaign. So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
right. Sure.
Um, I like asking everyone I have on the show for any kind of tip or action item that you might have for listeners who are looking to take their chamber up to the next level. What would you suggest for them?
Yeah, actually, there are quite a few. So, first of all, maybe actually start to embrace AI. Um,
Mhm.
like, AI is not like ChatGPT, and it's not Claude, and it's not Perplexity, and it's not Canva, and like the magic writer of LinkedIn or whatever. It's much more. I mean, it's this. It's part of this. It's empowering, like content creation and all of that. But there are also other things that we should actually embrace in AI. For example, something like automations. Start to automate. And actually, I think that I've said this in the first episode with you. I think said automate. And actually, even 3 years later, I still talk to my peers, and most of the time they don't automate,
Yeah.
but actually automate often. Like there's so many things that you cannot automate for sure, but things which are repetitive, make it automated, make it autopilot, like save either like 5 hours per week or 10 hours per week, or even as low as 2 hours per week. Like just automate your workflow, like try to gain some time, automate the repetitive tasks and to get more space for creative work, for example, or to have more members or to talk more to your existing members. Also at the same time, maybe you should actually shift more of their member engagement strategies online. For example, like we live like in digital era, and sometimes members expect real-time updates, sometimes like some personal content. I know that it's not that obvious to do it for certain types or sizes of chambers, but do as much as you can from where you stand. Like, for example, I've seen some chambers, they said, okay, we are going to do like a virtual secretariat. So basically, don't call us on the phone and tell us uh, what what you need and so on. Like just there's like a chat bot
Mhm.
in the website. You can just talk to it. And if it is something that, like you interface, you chat with the interface. If it doesn't give you the proper answers to what you want, this is actually when you would be able to get access to a phone number and call us. But you can also send us an email. I mean, try to automate as much as possible. Um, Also with different engagement stores, I found that some chambers, for example, they do webinars consistently. I know that, for example, some chamber in small time doesn't mean. I mean, they cannot do that because they can just like do an event like every once in a while and that's enough. But if you're like metro chamber, like very big city, you cannot like reach everyone at the same time and bring them together on site. So um, have something like, give them real-time update. I mean, they don't need to wait for your monthly newsletter to tell them what you did for them. Like, do it real time. Do it real time. I mean, they will feel that you actually care more about them, that you are more present, and you actually wait for it and do, it's just like another thing that you just another thing that you check at the end of the month and you said, okay, this is the newsletter, this is what we've been doing. Like, no, do it real time.
Yeah. I like that, doing it real time and also recording it, having a library of these, real time, going back to being that media machine, right?
Yeah,
If you can provide asynchronous information where somebody can digest it on their own time instead of needing to be at the meeting or at the luncheon at a specific time in person, they have the option to catch it virtually, or if they can't see it today but they can watch it tomorrow,
Yes.
then that's even better because you're getting more exposure to more people that way. Your thought about automation too, I think is spot on. I've seen it'll free up time and give room for that creative work, like you mentioned, but it also makes your systems that much better when you can automate processes because the input, the data that's coming into it's going to be the same. And just a simple example, as I've seen with some chambers, is they input membership information. For example, the contact name, depending on who is entering the information in, they might include a prefix of Mr. or Mrs., you know,
Yeah.
Jones or whatever. And then the next person who's entering in membership information just does first and last name. So then you have inconsistencies in your data all over the place. So having a system and automating it's going to clean things up a ton and make it so much easier to process that data in a meaningful way. So
Yeah, absolutely.
well, Houssem, before we let you go, you alluded to it earlier, but as we look to the future of chambers of commerce, how do you see the future of chambers and their purpose going forward?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, so Chamber started as network and then as advocacy powerhouse. And now they should become media machines. But actually, in order to become media machine, you should be able to, I think that instead of like everyone doing their own thing, aside, maybe you should have something that we have our own key message, the same key messages that we deliver, like we harmonize um, all the benefits that you get from joining Chamber, but also at the same time, we should also harmonize the key messages of what could not work in your favor if you don't join as well. Because, for example, if you have some kind of issue, sometimes you just cannot solve it on your own. We sometimes forget that chambers of commerce also have mandates depending on the countries they're operating from. So sometimes if you want to deal with the government, for example, on a certain issue, you cannot do it on your own, only via a chamber. Uh, so you have, for example, you want to advocate to change some regulations, for example, which are harming you. Or maybe you said, okay, I have suggestions for something new, which actually we could implement, which kind of bring us more dollars and hire more people, and especially keeping both local. So you can only do that with your chamber. When you look at the world's biggest companies, actually what they do is just you see that everything is online, but no, like they have like public affairs team who actually or which actually work with chambers to actually negotiate with governments and so on to implement new kind of regulations. So yeah, I think that it's like Bill Gates, or I don't know who said it before, like if your business is not with internet, then it will be out of business. I think that we should like harmonize a set of key messages which go like if your business is not chamber member, then your business will go out of business. Um, yeah, I think yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate that. I want to give you a chance to share any contact information for listeners who want to reach out and connect to learn more about what you're doing, but probably most importantly, how to subscribe to Chamberpad so they can get this news, this curated news sent to them each week. What's the best way? Where would you point them to do these things?
Yeah, sure. So you go to chamberpad.com. So basically it's a landing page. The first thing you're gonna see is to actually just insert your email and subscribe. And later on you can start reading, have access to all the archives. And every week, like every Thursday, you will have like the weekly digest every week, every Thursday in your inbox You will also find my contact information within the newsletter. So you can find my full name, Houssem Touil. It's the same on LinkedIn, and you can also find my email. It's my initials, so hg@chamberpad.com.
That's perfect. And as normal, we'll get all this in our show notes for this episode to make it easy to find and
Great.
subscribe and get people in contact with you. But Sam, this has been great having you back on Chamber Chat Podcast.
Likewise.
Appreciate the partnership going forward with Chamberpad as well. And wish you best of luck going forward and seeing it grow and see where it goes from here. So thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me.
If you are a chamber professional, please subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. When you subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast, new episodes will show up in your podcast app each week as they are released. If you're finding value in this podcast, please leave us a rating and a review in iTunes. But most importantly, please share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues that are in the industry.